Most videos like this one open with a lie. Oklahoma is not cheap. The USDA priced Oklahoma pasture at $2,200 an acre in 2026. The national average is $2,000. The state is above the line, not under it. And yet there is one corner of Oklahoma where recorded sales put grass at $813 an acre. Roughly 40% of what the rest of the country pays. That corner is real. The towns in it are mostly gone. Ahead, a town of 3 people that once supported 18 businesses and a cigar factory. A schoolhouse cellar that surfaces on the floor of a reservoir when the drought gets bad enough. A dam 120 feet tall, holding back nothing at all. And at number 1, a town that keeps its clocks an hour off from the state it belongs to. It is the only place on this list that is growing, and the only one I would personally consider buying into. Stay for it. This channel takes cities apart and looks at what is actually underneath the reputation. Subscribe if that is what you came for. 10 Oklahoma ghost towns and what the cheap land is really costing you. Number 10. Slapout, the town that was named after running out of things. 4 people, as of the 2000 census. That is the last hard count anyone has, because Slapout is unincorporated and the Census Bureau does not go looking for places this small. The name is the whole story. A man named Tom Lemons opened a store here during the Depression and called the settlement Nye after a sitting U.S. senator. Customers started saying the store was slap out of whatever they came for. Lemons denied his sister ever said it. The name stuck anyway. He only gave up when a tornado came through and took out the Nye sign and left everything else standing. The joke name is what appears on the U.S. Geological Survey map today. The peak was about 10 residents in the 1,930 seconds. Beaver County around it fell from 5,636 in 2010 to 5,049 in 2020, and it is down to roughly 3 people per second square mile. Grass out here trades around $813 an acre, which sounds like a clerical error until you price the driving. Nearest grocery bank and hospital, 20 to 30 miles across open highway. There is a gas station. That is the economy. Skiers with Colorado plates stop for coffee heading west, and the clerk talks to them for 10 minutes, because who else is coming? Number 9, Beer City. Today, it is a field. Center pivot circles, section line roads. You could stand on the exact ground and never know. For about 2 years, 1888 to 1890, this was the least governed patch of ground in the United States, and it advertised that fact in newspapers. Local business owners ran ads calling it the only town in the civilized world with absolutely no law. Here's the thing. That was accurate. When Texas gave up its land north of the 36 to 30 line under the Compromise of 1850, a 170-mile strip was left belonging to no state and no territory. No sheriff, no courts. Kansas was dry. The Santa Fe Railroad reached Tyrone in 1888 carrying cowboys and cattle dealers with money. Beer City set up 3 miles south of Liberal, Kansas, on the correct side of an invisible line, and sold them what Kansas would not. It started as white canvas tents, and was called White City first. It never built a church, a school, or a post office. Nobody involved planned to stay. The Organic Act of 1890 attached the strip to Oklahoma Territory. Well, the advantage vanished, and so did the town. Debbie Colson, who manages the No Man's Land Museum in Goodwell, told the Oklahoma Gazette it was kind of a party town, with a couple of saloons and a house of prostitution, and that its promoters sold it as booming rather than lawless. The violent stories that outlived it contradict each other, so I am leaving those alone. The wildest town in state history left behind a display case 40 miles away. Number 8. Knowles. Beaver County again, I know. But the Panhandle is where the cheap land actually is, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. Start with the catch. Beaver County has lost population in effectively every decade since 1950. Cheap land here is not an undiscovered bargain. It is correctly priced. Now, the town. Knowles started as Sands City, named for Dr. A.J. Sands, the only physician in the vicinity. 52 residents by 1911. Then the Wichita Falls and Northwestern Railway arrived in 1912, and the town platted a new site on the quarter section to the north and moved its buildings there. Actually, let me be precise about that because it gets skipped. They picked up the town and walked it north to sit closer to a railroad. That railroad no longer runs. Population was 32 in 2000. By 2010, it was 1-1. The most historically significant structure in Knowles is not a church or a courthouse. It is the grain elevator, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. There is still a church, still a store, still a community building, and it is still incorporated, which puts it a rung above the hamlets around it. No school, no bank, no rail. In the early 1922, Beaver County held 37 town sites and 53 one-room schools. Almost none of them are towns now. You see the elevator from miles out on US 64. Then you arrive, and it is still the tallest thing there. Number 7. Strong City. Roger Mills County, 6 miles northeast of Cheyenne, dropping toward the Washita River Valley. There is a rocky hill in the middle of town. It is empty, and it was left empty on purpose. Strong City opened formally on the 25th of June 1912, named for Clint Strong, a railroad official. The Clinton and Oklahoma Western Railway made it a terminus that August. Within a year, it had roughly 600 people, the largest town in the county. The founders assumed the county seat would follow the rail, so they reserved that hill for a courthouse. Cheyenne kept the seat 6 miles away. Then, automobiles and paved roads erased whatever advantage a railhead had. And Strong City was left with neither rail traffic nor a government payroll. The 2020 census counted 33 people. Roger Mills County is down to about 3,259 and is the 4th least populous county in the state. Grass in western Oklahoma runs closer to $1,680 an acre under the state average, not panhandle cheap. And there is a complication. The county sits over the Panhandle Hugoton Field, which means the mineral rights on any given tract may already be severed and owned by somebody you will never meet. Run the title search before the surface. Price means anything at all. Everything the county actually does happens in Cheyenne. The hill is still holding a spot for a decision that got made 114 years ago. The other way. Quick thing before we keep going. If you have driven through any of these, or there is a town near you that emptied out the same way, put the name in the comments. Those are the ones worth looking into. The back half of this list gets heavier. Number 6. Vinson. Harmon County, southwest corner of the state, close enough to Texas to see it. In 2017, the federal government discontinued the post office and the zip code, 73,571. That is roughly as close as rural America gets to a death certificate. Small tangent, then back to the point. Vinson produced Ruth Davis, who appeared on Petticoat Junction, a town with no measurable population and one national television actor. I find that funnier than I probably should. Right. Vinson had the largest school district in Harmon County, 143 square miles, an area bigger than the city of Denver. The county once had 44 school districts. By 1959, it had 6. That is the entire mechanism. Harmon County was carved out in 1909 for a cotton wheat economy that needed a town every wagon day, each with a school and a gym. Mechanization killed the labor demand. Consolidation killed the reason for the towns to exist. Harmon County has not gained population in a single census since 1930. Not one. It was 2,488 in 2020 and an estimated 2,327 in 2025 across 539 square miles. Pasture here averages around $1,787 an acre. only about 11% under the national number. And the reason it is not cheaper is the reason it is hard. This is drought country on the North Fork of the Red River, where water, not acreage, is what caps a cattle operation. People still live in Vincennes, their mail comes from somewhere else. Number 5. Coubertin. 2 general stores, a livery stable, a drugstore, a bank, a hardware store, a cotton gin, a cigar factory, a mill, a blacksmith, 2 hotels, its own newspaper, the Coubertin Banner. The 2020 census counted 3 residents. I read that twice. 16 people in 2010, 3 in 2020. 81% of what was left gone in a decade. Here is how it got there. And it is 2 bad bets stacked on each other. Frank Cooper organized a settlement company in 1899, ahead of the Kiowa, Comanche, and Apache lands opening. When he learned the government would use a lottery instead of a land run, he negotiated directly and secured 320 acres for his members, then platted a town at the foot of the Wichita Mountains. A registration error put the town site about 2 miles from where he had planned it. The name had to change too, because a Cooper already existed in what is now Blaine County. That was the first bet. The second was the railroad. 18 businesses is a railroad town's inventory. The railroad never came. It grew anyway, slowly, on agriculture alone. 100 people by 1910, peaking at 187 in 1940. Then 106 by 1960. 31 by 1980. It never gained in a single decade after that. Kiowa County went from 29,630 people in 1930 to 8,503 in 2020. And I have to be straight about the land here, because the title of this video makes a promise. Coubertin is not the cheap one. The Wichita Mountains are exactly what make it beautiful and exactly what make it expensive. Broken granite country carries recreational and hunting value that bids grass up, and rocky ground runs fewer cattle per acre than flat prairie. The scenery is the premium and the penalty at the same time. The Baptist Church is still one of the most substantial buildings standing. 3 people. You could learn all their names before lunch and have the rest of the day free. Number 4. 4-acre. Osage County. Buy 100 acres here, and you own the dirt. You do not own anything underneath it, and you never will, regardless of what you pay. Under the Osage Allotment Act of 1906, Congress split the surface from the minerals. The surface was allotted to individuals. The subsurface, the oil, the gas, all of it, was kept whole and held in trust by the United States for the Osage Nation. That is still the arrangement. It covers the entire county. No surface sale can convey it. And 4-acre is the one place in the Osage where the original buyers got an exception. The town site was platted in 1905 along the Midland Valley Railroad before the allotment, and when the lots went to auction in May 1906, those buyers kept their mineral rights. Nobody else in the county did. So, when Osage ranch land looks underpriced next to comparable grass somewhere else, that is not a scam, and it is not a bargain. It is a permanent limit on what ownership means. Created by Congress, priced in, 4-acre rode 2 booms. Cattle first, 15,000 head, shipped out in a single 6-month stretch. Then the Burbank oil field in 1920, which turned the town into a supply center, 94, producing wells nearby by 1922. Local businesses did $169,000 in sales in the first half of that year alone. The official census peak was 415 in 1910. Unofficially, the oil years pushed it toward 2,000. Both busted. The Osage Railway closed in 1953. The Midland Valley closed in 1968. The 2020 census, 18 people. John Morris listed 4-acre as a ghost town in 1978 and recorded a long-time resident going down the inventory. The stores, the post office, the train, the school, the oil, the young people, all gone. And finishing with the only thing that had not gone, The graveyard, which the man said, "Get bigger." It sits 2 miles east of the intersection, and it is better attended than the town. 3 left, and they are the 3 I would actually drive out to see. One of them is underwater. Number 3, Old Hardesty. There is a dam in the Oklahoma Panhandle 120 feet tall and more than 3 miles long across its crest. Boat ramps run off it down into dry grass. There is no lake. It cost roughly $50 million federal dollars. It was designed to hold 618,500 acre-feet of water and has never been more than 5% full. Hardesty is the town it was meant to save, and Hardesty, the first version, had a post office in 1887 named for a cattleman called Jack Hardesty. Its leaders lobbied the Rock Island Railroad to route through. In 1901, the railroad laid track 20 miles west instead and created an entirely new town on the spot, Sanford, which you now know as Guymon. The businesses left. The newspaper left. In 1906, a newspaperman named Richard Quinn wrote that the old town was no more. By 1918, it was a country post office and nothing else. In 1929, the investors wanted to call the new town site Williams. Locals insisted on Hardesty because the ghost town was right there. So the name got a second life, straight into the Depression and the Dust Bowl. Then the third bet. In 1966, the Corps of Engineers began Optima Dam 2 miles north. Drinking water, flood control, hundreds of thousands of visitors a year. The Beaver River would fill it. Except farmers across the high plains were pumping the Ogallala aquifer that fed that river, and it was drying up while the dam was under construction. They finished it in 1978. Anyway, the park closed in 1995. Ed Rossman, planning branch chief for the Corps' Tulsa district, told State Impact Oklahoma in 2013 that if the dam had been completed in 1968 rather than 1978, the outcome would have been different. This is the honest core of the whole video. Panhandle grass is $813 an acre, and the reason is visible from the top of that dam. You are not buying underpriced land. You are buying land whose price already knows about the water. The Old Town site is a National Register archaeological site with nothing standing on it. The new Hardesty has 205 people and still runs its own school for about 100 kids. Texas County lost 332 residents to migration in a single year. The kids are the part I keep coming back to. Number 2, Lugert. On May 2, 1912, the Hobart Republic ran a headline announcing that Lugert had been erased from the map. A tornado had come through the day before. The paper was wrong briefly. Frank Lugert rebuilt. He had arrived in the area in 1898 and founded the town in 1901 on an 80-acre claim after the Kiowa Comanche Apache lottery. It had a general store that housed the post office and sold dry goods, school supplies, groceries, harnesses, axes. Ordinary. A service point for the farms around it. What finished Lugert was not weather. It was water policy. Altus, 17 miles downstream, sits in the most drought-prone corner of Oklahoma, and in 1926 it passed a bond to dam the North Fork of the Red River directly at Lugert's doorstep. The dam as it stands today was completed in 1947. It is 110 feet above its foundation, 1,104 feet long, with a spillway rated at 58,000 cubic feet per second through 9 radial gates. 6,260 acres of reservoir, 71 feet at the deepest point. Frank Lugert moved his store next to the new lake and ran it until shortly before he died in 1958. Here's the part that surprises people. The town comes back. In drought years, the water drops and the lake bed gives up brick piles, foundations, sidewalks that lead nowhere, and the cellar of a 2-story schoolhouse. An 8-year drought had it nearly empty until spring 2015, when storms delivered 17.1 inches of rain in 60 days and put everything back under. Ron Smith, a biologist working the Altus Lugert management areas, described that cycle to 405 magazine in 2013. The records go back to the 1,890 seconds. The tree rings show the pattern clearly, and after the wet stretch through the 80s and 90s, the dry years felt worse than they actually were. He finished the interview asking people to pray for rain. A town drowned to solve a drought that only reappears during droughts. If you want lakefront grass here, understand, you are buying a lake that has already gone nearly empty inside living memory. It is the only place on this list you need a bad year to see. Number 1. Kenton. The road in is State Highway 325 along the dry Cimarron Scenic Byway. It runs up a river valley cut between mesas. The Three Sisters Buttes rise on the approach. Then the northern horizon fills with a long flat-topped ridge capped in black basalt, and you are at 4,350 feet high. Desert, not prairie, in the driest air in Oklahoma. There are a handful of stone, adobe, and frame buildings on one street. And if you stop and ask somebody what time it is, the answer will be wrong for the state you are standing in. Kenton is the only community in Oklahoma that keeps mountain time. The rest of the state is central. That is not a novelty. It is a business decision. Kenton is 3 miles east of New Mexico and 6 miles south of Colorado, and nearly everyone who visits or trades there comes from one of those two states. The town runs on their clock because it runs on their economy. The place predates Oklahoma. Its predecessor, Cariso, was a cowboy town in no man's land in the 1,880 seconds when the strip belonged to nobody. By 1905, Kenton had 3 general merchandise stores, a drugstore, hardware, furniture, a shoe shop, a barber shop, a blacksmith, a livery, a grain dealer, a seed mill, a laundry, 2 saloons, and a church. At statehood in 1907, it was the temporary county seat and held the county records in the building. People still call the Myrrh. It lost the seat election on the 11th of June, 1909 to Boise City. The railroads reached Cimarron County late and never came here at all. In 1930, there were 96 people. In 2010, there were 17. In 2020, there were 31. That is the thing. Kenton is the only town on this entire list that is growing. Black Mesa is the highest point in Oklahoma at 4,972 feet, and high pointers, hikers, and the Rita Blanca National Grassland pull people through. There are dinosaur tracks preserved in sandstone at the east end of the mesa. The post office is open. There is a museum. There is the Mercantile, run by a man named Alan Griggs, who the National High Pointin' Club will tell you is most of the reason anyone knows the town exists. Now the land, because this is where the promise finally cashes. Panhandle pasture sold for an average of $813 an acre in recorded sales. The Oklahoma average is $2,200. The national average is $2,000. This genuinely is about 40% of what the rest of the country pays for grass. And here is what the discount buys. Regnier, in this same county, is the driest place in Oklahoma, at 15.62 inches a year, which means it takes far more acres to run one cow here than in the eastern half of the state. Cheap per acre is not cheap per hour, Ed. Cimarron County holds 2,296 people. The hospital is a long way off, and the Ogallala under your boots is the same aquifer that failed to fill Optima Lake. The land is not underpriced. It is priced exactly right for what it is. And what it is hard. No school, no bank. 31 people at the far corner of a state they refuse to keep time with. 10 towns, 1 state, 1 pattern. Every dollar the land is discounted, something is missing behind it. Water, neighbors, minerals, or the town itself. Kenton is my pick, and it is not close. It is the only one that came back. Which of these would you actually buy into, and which one did I get wrong? Subscribe if you want the next one. The dam is still out there. Still empty.